Hello everyone and welcome to Zanekin's Manga Review. Again, as always, I am Zanekin, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the One Piece chapter 860. The party begins at 10. Funny enough, it's 10:02 at my time as I'm recording this. This is an interesting chapter, and I think if we're reviewing this as honestly as we can, I wasn't a fan of the fact that we only got 11 pages and that 4 of those 11 pages were of Jinbei's flashbacks. It kind of shows him talking to his crew and explaining to them why he didn't spin the wheel, pretty much telling them, I'm going to join the Straw Hats. He kind of says if, and he kind of beats around the bush a little bit, but we all know he's going to join. And then he talks about the possibility of him dying. Well, what's interesting is he kind of mentions that, you know, at some point he feels that he'll die for his captain. It's just a matter of when. But they do tell him, you know, do your best not to die if you can. And I think what was interesting about the wheel, I think that it did a good job of kind of showing us who are Jinbei supporters or curious about his character as to why he didn't spin the wheel. I know some people were upset about that. I think they were mostly upset because there was a lot of speculation about it for a few months. But I think, you know, when it put his crewmates' lives at stake and their lifespans, I think that's where he had to draw the line. And I think to me that just actually sticks with Jinbei's character. It makes those numbers make a little more sense. We all kind of thought those were years. But it does make what happened the previous times we've been shown the wheel kind of add up a little better. I'm curious what Jinbei thought she was going to do when he asked to leave, because he seems to know kind of her in and outs and how she approaches things like that. Anyway. Enough time on Jinbei. Here's the one thing that's killing me right now. We have Crocodile with a pug in the rain, and he's covering the pug. I'm just kidding. That was our cover art. But I did love anytime we get to see my boy Crocodile. I'm excited about it. Seeing him in the rain is kind of funny, knowing that he brought drought and that water's kind of his natural weakness. But I really hope that we do get him back into the story soon enough. We get to see that Peckham's is tied up. Just to run you through the chapter real quick. I know it's not much of it. But we see Peckham's is tied up, and they say that we hope you get found sooner than later. And I'm curious who will find Peckham's, because we're not going to just leave him tied up to a tree for the remainder of the chapter. Unless Oda's not sure exactly what he wants to do with Peckham's. If he thinks that having Peckham's have that moral conflict of does he support Luffy or does he support Big Mom and the assassination plan that's about to unfold, I think it's hard for the writer to really decide how you should handle that with Peckham. So maybe we just push them off to the side, and we've done that before with characters where they're just kind of pushed off to the side and then they'll be found later. Maybe on their way out they'll take Peckham's and he won't want to go, but he'll be thankful that they took him. It's really interesting where we might go with that. Jinbei and his decision to spin the wheel, talked about that. Now we do get introduced to the Kings of the Underground, and this is something that a lot of people are speculating about. We were kind of hoping or thinking that maybe we would know one of the Kings of the Underground, but instead we get 6 new characters with 6 Oda boxes, kind of explaining which one's which. The first character we see is Dufeld, and pardon me if I'm not pronouncing these right, but I haven't had the benefit of hearing anybody else pronounce them yet. But we get Dufeld. He's the black market king, god of fortune. He looks the most like a gangster, similar to Capone. He's got like striped hair, and he's got the big coat, and he looks like he could be in Godfather. He looks like an interesting character. Next to him, we have the Princess of the Pleasure Quarters, Stussy. She kind of looks like a typical Oda girl to me. Nothing particularly different. Shorter hair. She's not super curvy or anything like that. She's in a nice dress. I'm assuming that she's the leader of kind of a brothel area. The third one we get is the Great Mortician, Drug Peklo. And we see him and Dufeld kind of picking at each other. Dufeld said, why is there a mortician coming to a wedding? And he's like, oh, come on now. Even morticians can come to a wedding. But to me, that's kind of some foreshadowing as to what's going to happen. And then he kind of pokes fun back at Drug Peklo, saying, oh, well, I smell blood on somebody. So that's kind of interesting, the interaction they had there. He kind of looks like, if you look at Drug Peklo, he kind of looks like a more proportional Bobbin. He's not like that kind of midget stature and short and dumpy. He's like just as big as the other. And that's the thing too. These underground people who are walking in, they're all big guys and girl. And Drug Piccolo, he's kind of a bobbin looking guy. He's got that sort of luchador mask going on. He's got kind of a military outfit on though. He's got the band here. Interesting looking character. The fourth one we have is the president of the World Economic Times, and I'm not remembering if we've seen the World Economic Times before. His nickname's Big News Morgans. He kind of looks like Big Bird, and when I say kind of, he looks like Big Bird. When you see this character, if you don't see Big Bird, I don't know that you had a childhood. He has an important role coming up, though, if you ask me. If he has his own newspaper, and we do see him kind of gossiping here and there, and he seems excited about big news, actually, he might be the most important of the underground, and I'll get to the other reason why. But he does have the role of playing of kind of the reporter of what's going to happen at Big Mom's event. We know that a lot of things happened before with Luffy where it never got reported and his bounty wasn't quite right because of it. If you remember, everything he did in Sky P was kind of rumored, and it wasn't ever decided upon whether or not it actually happened. It wasn't reported. I think that Big News Morgans is going to serve as kind of our reporter and maybe even our photographer. I'm not sure. For the events that are going to take place at the wedding, I think he'll be huge as far as relaying what Luffy will accomplish and what the group will accomplish as a whole. The fifth person we have is Storage Industry Titan, the Concealer Giberson. He's got a white mustache. He's drinking constantly. He kind of looks like Duke Chicken or Count Chicken before the Tamago, before the transformation. Kind of, I don't know, typical bland character to me. He just says that, oh, well, us in the real underground have known for a long time that this was in works or something like that. And he was kind of making a jab at Big News Morgans because, oh, well, we knew and you think this is new. Just kind of a funny interaction there. These characters are all funny. They're entertaining how they interact with each other. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of animosity. Now, there might be a joint hatred for Capone, or maybe they're on their best behavior for the wedding. But I thought it was really interesting. But if you look at their job titles too, I mean, you got the Mortician, you have the Black Market King, you have the Pleasure Quarter. They don't really conflict with each other. It's much more of a symbiotic relationship. Now, Capone is the one that's the question mark, and I was really sad to see that we didn't get to see any interaction between Capone and this group. And realistically, they probably had to go through the door like everybody else and get checked by Capone to make sure that they didn't have any weapons or anything on them like that. The sixth thing that we have is the shipping magnate, Deep Ocean Current Umit. He looks much more like a traditional pirate. He's got the black beard, but then like a weird separate kind of Fu Manchu black mustache, pirate hat. Kind of interesting character. He was singing while they were walking in, so it's interesting if that'll be a continued character trait. And Drug Piccolo is definitely my favorite, though. I was just thinking of his laugh. He's kind of got like a goi 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 kind of laugh going on. So a lot of things I'd love to see in the anime. Then we're introduced. There's a lot of introductions in this chapter, and that's really what this chapter served to do. We're introduced to one of Big Mom's sons who didn't make it to a previous wedding, and we've been told before, and this is kind of some knowledge that you should put together about what happens to him. But we've been told before that you don't not show up to Big Mom's wedding if you're invited. And so we see organ dealer Jigra shows up at the door, and he's kind of being cryptic here and there. And Capone's like, hey, man, no weapons. Why weren't you here last time? Why are you here now? And he's like, oh, he's invited. Next thing we know, he gets a bullet through his head. And then we're introduced to probably my favorite character in this entire arc as far as new characters that have been introduced. He's still not going to pass my boy Jinbei. But with a bounty of 1,057,000,000, we have Dogtooth Charlotte. He is the second son. He's one of the sweet commanders. It appears that he's got jelly bean powers, or at least he used a jelly bean. I don't think you can assume either way based off of what happened. And he's got amazing observation hockey to the point where he almost has foresight of upcoming events, but only in a narrow window. But that bounty, I think that bounty is very specifically placed above Jack's. I think if you look at the fact that it's only 57 million more than, and I say only, but relative to $1 billion, it's only 57 million more than Jack. I think it's trying to keep him within that same area, but make him better at the same time. So that was a good decision by Oda, I think, to balance saying, hey, this guy's higher up than Jack. And again, bounty does not mean strength, but it does tell us a lot of things as far as when we're trying to measure characters we haven't seen in action yet. But I think it's putting him in the same league as Jack and then nudging him just a little bit more over, so that you're a little more excited about his character. But this guy is legit. Let me tell you, Dogtooth Dudes is way better than Mammoth Boys. Let me say that. Hashtag Dogtooth Dudes. This guy looks legit. He looks like he's from Road Warrior, or like the guy that was chasing SpongeBob and Patrick in their movie, if you remember that. But he just looks awesome. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. I think he's going to be a big problem with his near sight future seeing, and I got to wrap this video up, but I think he's going to be a problem with his near sight future seeing. I think he might be a big spoiler as far as the plan that Capone's supposed to get through, and Capone even acknowledges that he'll be the biggest hurdle that they have to get over in order for their plan to work. But I'm very excited. We see Sanji getting ready. We see his sister's kind of worried about him coming, and she's like, you know what's going to happen? She doesn't talk to him, but she's thinking that out loud. It's very interesting, and I think the one thing that got me is in the last panel, you really can't tell how many people are at this wedding. It really only looks like maybe 20 or 30 from the grand shot they give you, but I think the grand shot was more to establish the elaborateness of the wedding. We see a giraffe getting wrung out by Smoothie. Presumably Cracker's there somewhere. I'm still not sure what happened to Cracker, and that might be on me, but I still think he's got to make an appearance. It doesn't make sense that he'd just be KO'd for what seems like, I think, 3 days, 2 days in the chapters now. But hey, the wedding's starting. The arc's coming to an end. It kind of, in this last couple of chapters, really ramped up the pace. I think Oda's editors or somebody must have been telling him, hey, we can't do a 3-year arc like we did with not Sanji, with Doflamingo. We really need to get through this. He said the year of Sanji. Now we're heading into April almost, and we're still dealing with this. I think we're kind of wrapping this up a little bit, but I'm still very interested to see what's going to happen. Let me know what you guys think of Dogtooth Charlotte. If you haven't seen him already, go check him out. The dude is legit. I think he's going to be one of the biggest issues. I'm curious to who's going to battle him. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the matchups. Again, I'm not a believer that we're going to have the runaway escape plan work. We're not going to decapitate Big Mom. We might injure her, but I'd be surprised if we don't get to see a battle, and the matchups are going to be exciting. Let me know what you guys thought about the chapter. I'd give it about an 8 out of 10. Again, I was not happy about 4 of the 11 pages being used just to show Jinbei's flashback. I thought that could have been cut a lot shorter. I think it was supposed to be a sweet moment between him and now the leader of his group. I didn't really care. You know, I kind of figured, okay, he didn't spin the wheel for a reason. His crew's leaving. It explains to us how his crew's going to be able to get out there. So that was kind of tying up some loose ends right before we head into the wedding. Must have been something that was bothering Oda or something he felt he needed to say. And plus it expressed the worries about Fishman Island. But again, hey, what you going to do? So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great remainder of your day whenever you watch this video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Again, I'm working on my setup. I'll have a better camera, better mic eventually. I appreciate you guys. Please subscribe. I'll bring you One Piece reviews every week. And yeah, stay awesome.